everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of 31 Days of Indie Horror. I'm your host, Jonathan Moody. I've got a special guest here, Joe Turek. How you doing, Joe?
Doing great. How's things going your way?
Doing fantastic. So Joe just told me like a few seconds ago that he literally just finished this probably about like a half hour ago or something, you
Yeah.
know, if even.
Yeah, if even that, just right up on it.
Right. So that's awesome. I'm glad you got a chance to like watch it pretty quickly and everything. So let's first of all, we're talking about the movie Ghost in the Graveyard. If you didn't read the info on the title there. The Ghost in the Graveyard is a 2019 film written and directed by Charlie Camparetto. And stars Kelly Berglund, Berglund, I guess. Jake Busey, Olivia Larson, and Royce Johnson, Maria Olson, and a few other people. But those are the Zebedee Rowe. That's a cool name. Is Rowe a last name for real? I'm not making fun of his name.
Hi.
I'm just like wondering if that's a stage name or, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know who would pick a stage name as Zebedee because that's a very, I don't know. I guess that's a very biblical name.
Yeah. Won't get forgotten. I mean, that's a name that kind of once you hear it, it's like you'll remember that. I mean,
I think he's the only Zebedee Rowe, like in the film business. I mean, maybe. So anyway, there you go. So basically, let me read you the this. Okay, this is not even half the story, by the way, but this is the town of Mount Moriah comes under the thumb of Martha, a ghost who comes back to haunt the teens who witnessed her death as children during a game of Ghost in the Graveyard. There's a lot more to that than, what it says right there.
Yeah, most definitely.
So basically the story starts out, there's this kids playing a game of Ghost in the Graveyard. Have you ever played that game?
No, it seemed like almost like hide and seek, but it had a nice little rhyme, sort of like like the Elm Street rhyme or the Candyman rhyme, stuff, different things like that. But I've never played it. I didn't know it was an actual game or something like that.
That is an actual game. My friends and I used to play. We did it a little bit differently. We didn't do the rhyme. We always went. So like if you haven't played the game at all, it is like it's hide and seek, except the exact. I think it's more the exact opposite. Like you're looking for the ghost instead of the ghost coming to look for you. Instead of you hiding and the ghost or the person trying to find you, you have to find the ghost. Once you see the ghost, you say ghost in the graveyard and you run back to base. That's how I always played it. So it starts, but that's where I really hate. Well, I'll get back to that in a second. But so basically what you do is you start off the other kids that are not the ghost, right? They will go 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, all the way to midnight, right? Once you get to midnight, you say midnight and you go out and ready or not, here we are, here we come. So we go to look for the ghost, right? And then the ghost, then you find the ghost, and the ghost, once you see the ghost, you yell, ghost in the graveyard, and run. They never showed any of that, which is sort of like it sort of had it where it skipped that part, and had it where the ghost, I guess, or they were like, it got too late or something. It was too dark outside and they couldn't see where the person was. So they kept calling her name and saying, we're done. We're too late. We don't want to play this game anymore. And so one of the girls, I believe her name was Martha. I think that was the character name. She had it was Martha, and I guess fallen into a grave, like an open grave, and died. Which is kind of ironic to die in an open grave, I guess. But so she died, and and then all of a sudden, all hell will break loose in the town, and I don't really know like the full thing of what did you understand what happened to the to the girl Sally? Like because all of a sudden she kind of like left the town and went somewhere. Where did
Oh,
she go?
didn't it like fast forward like 10 years or something like that, and then she disappeared. Or it, I took it as she was going to get some sort of help or something, some sort of mental help or a break or something like that. But she didn't own that that was what it was, but it seemed like that's what it was. But I mean, that was not quite handled, I guess, in there, so it was sort of left for interpretation.
Yeah, you don't really get a full explanation of what happened. I think that's a little bit of the problem with the movie because I like I because we didn't see what I felt like it needed as a writer, you know, what I would have done to fix that script would be to add a scene while they're kids with her maybe seeing Martha and stuff and sort of seeming like she's a little crazy. You know, we needed a little bit more of a flashback scene, like a scene like that, because it just kind of jumps to like, you know, like you said, like 10 years later. And the kids are just so mean, but the kids were never mean to her when they were kids.
Yeah,
So it got like weird all of a sudden.
yeah. They needed to do something with like interlocking the past, and the present, to where we could have known her angle a little bit better, even if it was a misdirection. I mean, to give us something. I mean, because right now looking back on it, it's like, what? It's more of a question, it's just holes almost.
The whole movie has like very much big questions. Remember, I texted you yesterday and I was like, you know, I was watching the movie and then I was like, I told you I was watching the movie and then later I texted you and said it's about like, you know, an hour in and things have gotten weird. And you know, and things got weird. It got strange because like they sort of set up that there's a little bit of like revelations, you know, and I was just like, this is a little weird. Like, what kind of school kind of like what kind of nun school and stuff like Catholic school kind of does the way that they do it or whatever. It felt weird. And then all of a sudden, like, oh, it makes sense because now it's she is the descendant of you know, of Mary, you know,
Yeah.
which like I mean, none of this made any like sense to anything of like what like who did she belong to? Was she really her father's kid or was she born was she adopted? What the hell was going on? Like
Well,
so
I think
confusing.
Yeah, I think that's sort of some of the problems I had with it at times, was that it was so disjointed from different pieces. Because it's like the beginning, it starts out with that one piece, then it forwards 10 years. And then for like the next 45 minutes or so, it's pretty much a light, a young adult um, film, like where they're around school, the bullying and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, it's really not about the ghost in the graveyard, or ultimately it's switched. It's what the satanic elements and stuff like that. But I was just like, it just sort of shifted gears, and it was kind of really odd that it was like, okay, redirect, and then the last like 20 minutes or so was like the satanic side of it, and which was kind of intriguing, but it was just kind of, where was the rest of it that would have tied.
No, I agree because it got like a little weird at times because, you know, you're right. There was like a lot of misdirect of like, okay, this is not what we're doing. We're this, but here's my biggest problem with the movie is it should not have been called Ghost in the Graveyard. Like what?
Oh, absolutely, it should have been something else. I guess probably just because of the game. I guess probably where they got that from, but it should not have been that. It should have been called something else.
Yeah,
For
because it was more than Ghost in the Graveyard.
Yeah,
You know, it was more than the game. The game started it, but see, it seemed like a movie that had potential to have sequels, you know, and they can't do Ghost in the Graveyard 2, you know, because it just like what you're gonna continue with the game or something like another group of kids playing it, and then there's some more angels and satanic shit or whatever, you know, like demons and witches and it had way too much going on in it. Like I was trying to explain it to a friend today, and the more I talked about it, the more I realized how much shit it had in it, you know? Like it, like, just saying ghosts is one thing, but then saying ghosts, and then there's witches. Oh, okay. Oh, and then there's demons. Oh, okay. And then there's, I guess, the descendant of Mary. What? Like, well, wait, huh? Like, it's just too much stuff at once. And that's okay. That can, that is sort of what we do with our film stuff that we're doing, like having that like world where all this stuff exists, but it's got to be well established, like early on, you know what's going on. Like, this town is haven of witches. Okay, we get a bunch of witches. We see all the stuff going on with the witches. Okay, good. There's ghosts in here. Okay, now we're getting there. And then the people have got to understand, because it seemed like the people understood that these were, like the nun was helping out at the end with the cops and everything. Like, it felt way too much.
And
Like,
I hit one piece of it earlier about the young adult film aspect of it, that they went into that the whole high school thing for like good 30 to 45 minutes of the time at least. And it's
mhm.
like, I think with all the other stuff that you're mentioning right there, they should have took more time dealing with that stuff to develop it there, or it needed to be just significantly longer to encompass the whole thing of it. And I think that's where a lot of this failed. It was the writing's probably where this really was the downfall. Not that the idea, it's just the execution of the idea, fleshing it out. I think needed some more work.
Yeah, like you said, like you look, yeah, it needed some more work, because what they could have, yeah, they could have taken out what they should have done is have her return to her town when she was of age, like adult, and and deal with adult issues instead of doing the teen thing, because the teen drama stuff didn't even matter. Oh boy, she kissed a boy, that she shouldn't have been kissing, and the girl saw, that kind of thing. Like, it didn't matter. That girl became a villain because her mom was a witch. Played wonderfully by Maria Olsen, by the way, the mom. That that scene, one of my favorite scenes in that whole movie was was the girl walking in and waiting for her friend, and seeing the lady, and she's like, she sees the demon book and everything, and she's like, oh, that calls out to you, doesn't it, and stuff. I love that scene. Like, that scene, if they had more scenes like that, I would have
Mhm.
loved the movie a lot more.
Yeah.
uh
And I thrown for a little bit of a curve during that scene, because it seemed like Zoe was being nicer to her, to Sally at that point. And it was like right after she was the scene in the school where there was the bullying aspect. And then it was like, then she, I mean, I understand that Zoe's character was sort of, I mean, because she was ultimately bad, but it just, it was kind of weird. And it's, but I mean, I understand what you're saying with the mom. That was kind of cool with how that, how that reacted. But I think when the film first started, I was like, okay, what are we getting? I was like, I love the location was great. I mean,
mhm.
the northern New York is what it looked, I think, where it was. But great spot for a horror film. I mean, it's just in the town, it had a creepiness to it. I liked how they did like the drone footage, the drone camera footage of it. Made it seem a lot grander and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So I think they did really good there. The score was top notch. I mean, I loved the score.
The
Um,
score was fantastic. This was a pretty good B movie, at times. I mean, aside from the script and like things that needed to work on than that, every other aspect, the acting was great. I did not cringe or think, oh my God, that guy's terrible in that role, or whatever. But I did laugh my ass off in the scene where Jake Busey is trying to explain to his son what's going on. And I'm like, this is a writing problem, because I'm like, wait, so a father is finally telling his son, and the way that he's saying it just seems so awkward and weird. And it did not feel like real at all. It felt like scripted,
and
you know?
who was the baby that was there? Whose baby was that?
I don't know. Because the mother was no longer around. And
Around
like,
the two kids were still school aged. I mean, Busey wasn't seeing anybody else that it seemed like.
I
I
know.
I think this is sort of some of the writing stuff that was really it's like, but the baby was used as a mechanism for the threat, the baby being under threat, I guess, of being taken or missing and stuff like that. So I think that's why the baby was there. But I think that's just another point out of the writing problem.
Right. There was no, I was even thinking that when I was watching it going, that can't be her baby. That can't be, that could be the son's baby, maybe. Like,
It been hers because it pointed out that she was a virgin.
yeah, it's true.
So it's
True.
like, so it's just I think this all circles back around to they have a good idea. They had a lot of things that working well for it. It's just I think that if it could have been fleshed out a little bit better, and it could have been a bigger film. I mean, I don't know what the budget was on it. It looked good. I mean, it
Right.
looked good. Some people that some child actors who've now grown up. I mean, Jake Busey, he's been around for a number of stuff. Kelly Berglund, I think she's on was it like Z Squad or something from Disney. So I mean, she has she is in something. So she has some history. But two of the cops, were former child actors. So the one guy I was like, who is that? And I knew Jesse James or Jason James Richter from Free Willy. I knew him, and that was a really small role. I thought he was going to be in it more than he was. But
Wait a
the
minute.
other,
Wait, what? Who was he?
he was the deputy, the one that got that got foaming at the mouth.
Oh my God. I think you told me he was in this. I totally forgot. And then I
Yeah,
watched it. And I didn't recognize him. I didn't go, Free Willy.
yeah.
Oh, that's so funny. Now that I'm looking at it, I'm going, holy cow, that is him.
I mean,
That's
he's not.
so funny.
But I thought he was going to be in more of it. And then the other guy, one of the other deputies, I was like, I seen him and stuff, and he was a child actor. He was in Bronx Tale and Goodfellas and stuff like that. As a child, so it's interesting seeing how some of these are. So I mean, this movie has pull. So I mean, I'd like to know what the budget was on this. I mean, because it seemed like it had a pretty decent sized budget. I mean, not a that just they went out and shot. I mean, they planned it out a little bit. So it looked, but yeah,
Yeah.
and then
Oh my God, you're right. That dude was the young Tommy, which was young Joe Pesci in Goodfellas. Oh my God. So yeah, they had a pretty good cast in the movie, and that's why the acting was pretty decent,
I mean,
It's-
that wasn't I mean, we're picking at some of the other aspects of it, but I mean, it's not because of this. I mean, I thought with Jake Busey, I was like, okay, this is he gonna just cheese it up a little bit here, or is he? But I mean, he did good. I mean, he was fine.
oh, Jake Busey. Okay. So here's a big misconception about Jake Busey. I feel like people always associate him with his father too much, and his father is the one who's always a crazy character, or whatever. And Jake Busey can go crazy and do those kind of things, but generally speaking, he's pretty mellow and pretty normal, And I met him before, and he's really nice, but I've also seen a lot of his independent work, one of my favorite movies that we'll eventually do for Indie Film Cafe is called Taillights Fade, and he just did a wonderful job in that. It was fun, it was goofy, it was, what I mean? He had a good time, and I think like this, he seemed to have a good time. Like, of course, most of the time these actors get paid pretty good for their like 1 or 2 days that they're on set. And it seemed like he had a pretty, he was, I don't know how long he was there, because he was in it a lot longer than I thought he was going to be. I thought he was only going to be in like a couple scenes and he's out, but he was in like maybe 10 scenes, or something, maybe a little less, but he did a very good job. And uh you know I'd buy him as the father.
And he got to do the one liner of the movie too with the what was it? Let's go kill some witches.
Yeah. Which, I mean, maybe that's why he did it. Maybe that's why he signed on, is to have like lines like that, and to kind of, but it was just weird because every time someone was trying to be a hero or something, they never were. So it was like, there was no payoff to that, you know? I mean, unless they're making it as a joke, like, let's go kill some witches. Then they go out and then they get attacked and everything, and then they lose. And then the person who doesn't say that line is the one that ends up, saving the day
Yeah,
or
well, the
whatever.
sheriff coming in, and he put a couple shots straight in the middle of a couple of those bitches. That one he hits dead center, and she flipped basically. I was just like, whoa. Oh. And then he had some, like, didn't he have a couple of lines, like religious lines? So I guess there's probably like a really strong religious undertow to this, in that they were trying to create with the town to go with the satanic element opposite that, and I guess the school as well. So
Yeah, well, I dig that a little bit, like, because that's the thing. Like, it starts off with, this Mount Moriah small town where, I don't know if that's a real place or if that's a fictional town that they made, like our Echo Lake, you know. But it was, and like, you start off with the nun talking, and remember that scene? She's just talking to the she's talking to the what's her name, Sally, and Sally is like daydreaming or like seeing the ghost or whatever, thinking about, what I mean, thinking about that shit. And then all of a sudden she calls on her about, like, who's he trying to hide their face from or whatever, and it's from God, and Zoe has to be the one who says it because she's gonna, you know kind of be the bitch of the, of the thing, which, once again, that annoys me. That I'm gonna bring that up again. That annoys me that she was a bitch to Sally now, when they were six. She was like, they were playing a game of hide and seek or Ghost in the Graveyard. Everything was fine. Like, they weren't being, if they had teased her when she was playing the games and stuff like that, I could understand that thing. But that transition of her just being rude to her, when she hasn't seen the chick in like 10 years or whatever, she hasn't seen her in like forever. Like, why would she even be mean,
and it just seemed her the arc of her character seemed just uneven. It's just because it went from that to that, and then it was like she got her back into the house there, and then she just showed up at the other thing, and then she just flips out on her, like, was it claws her hands and starts licking her hands? It's licking her fingers from the blood and all that stuff. And it was like, okay, well, she is, and you figure that she's going to be one of the bad ones, but
Well, also, once you also find out that her mom is because I did not know for a while that her mom was the witch that you see in the beginning of the movie, or whatever, which made no sense. Once again, like, what was she doing? Like, it wasn't like she caused the girl to die in the grave or anything, like, what was she just kind of staring at them, watching them? Like, what was going on with the witch?
and why did it have to wait 10 years for this to happen again? I mean, I didn't catch it. I mean, because I know they were the one girl was back after 9 months away, but there was all these years of her being there supposedly. I mean, was there a certain time sensitive thing that had to only happen 10 years later? That's what they do sometimes in these movies, but it just, there's a, when we start really digging into it, it just, you start getting more questions and more questions, and sometimes that's fine with movies, you get questions, but it's like, in this case, it's like, this is unknown. It seems more like polls than anything. And I think
Yeah.
that's where I think if they would have taken that teen talk stuff and trimmed that down and elaborated on the stuff in the second half more to build it up, it could have been really something.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and like you said before, like, the cinematography looked great, the music was fantastic, like, acting was great. You know what I mean? It A movie can live and die by the direction and the script, together, because people always blame the writer, but, or whatever, and sometimes they blame the director, but most of the time it's kind of a collaboration, or maybe it's the producers who come in and say, I don't think producers of this kind of low budget thing pop in and tell a director what to change, as far as scripts go. I feel like that the director, who's also the writer, had a vision that just was too big for his britches. You know what I mean? And they couldn't film all the stuff he probably wanted, so he tried to make it work, And like you said before, if they cut out all of the if they cut out more of like the um
Cool
like
stuff.
school stuff, yeah. If they had said it where it wasn't school, and maybe they went to church, or something or whatever. And you didn't see any of the bullying because the bullying shit was just like unnecessary. Like it didn't amount to anything in the end, like none of that actually meant anything.
And if they didn't want to trim that down, if they could have tied some more that would have made more sense into the second half of the film after the twist and stuff like that started to happen, it could have been something. And another thing that it caught me a bit off in this one was the editing. The editing seemed a couple times I was like, wait, what did I just miss? I think I just missed something. And so it's like I rewound it a few times just to, because I was just like, wait, why? It just seemed kind of disjointed. I was like, how some of the stuff was going. So
Oh yeah. There's a time where I think it was a little abrupt, like it cut abruptly, and I was just like, wait, what is going on here? Like, I mean, that happens. You got to be careful. Editing is very important.
yeah.
You know.
So I think that it's like in total, this film. I'm glad I saw it because I mean it's one that I probably would never sought out if you wouldn't have brought this one up on here. But just there's some good things about this that really takes it out of a different type of class of movie. I mean, and it's not trying to be comedic, except for it did have a line in the credits at the end, which that was kind of funny, but it wasn't very there was not much in sense of comedy to it, so that was good because I mean they tried to handle it seriously, which I think is what the topic and what he was trying to do needed to be. So it didn't go into the horror comedy stuff, which is fine in its way, but this isn't meant to be that, which I'm good with in this case. But in the closing credits, though, the very last line, I don't know if you saw it or not, it says, "No goat was hurt in the filming of this film."
I did not see that. That's funny.
So they're just making a pitch, I guess. But
oh, okay. Yeah.
In some ways, the girl, Olivia Larson, she has sort of a look that kind of resembles the girl from The Witch a little bit.
I've never seen The Witch actually.
I've only seen pieces of it, and I don't know if I've ever. It's kind of an interesting story. I mean, I could tell it here in a minute or two. I've tried to watch it twice. The first time I tried to watch it, I rented it from Redbox, and it got stuck in my PlayStation 3, and I had to. It basically was the end of my PlayStation 3. So it was on the verge of dying, I think, anyways. But my PlayStation 3 died, so I was like, well, okay. So I had to open it up to get the movie out, return it. So be it. So I tried to watch the movie The Witch again when it came on like Prime or something. It's one of the streamers. When I did that, my remote control for the unit completely got disassociated with all the network. I had to like take a couple hours to get it reestablished to the system to watch it. So I was like, there's something telling me that maybe I should not be watching this movie. So to this day, I still never watched that. I still never watched. Not a thing that I don't want to see it. It's just like, well, maybe it's not in my cards to see that.
I'll tell you this. I've told Paul that I won't watch it because I've heard stories that they use real witchcraft in the movie. And I don't, even if people are like, witchcraft's not real, and maybe it's not. But yeah. I don't want to take the fucking chance of like a spell happening in real life to me, like and shit like that and stuff. And so I've always told, and people can laugh at me for that. I don't give a fuck, but I will never watch. It's just the same thing as there's some movies I just won't. I won't watch Cannibal Holocaust. They kill a fucking turtle in that movie. I won't like they killed a live turtle on the thing, and I will not watch something like that. I won't support it, So I mean, I'm a spiritual guy. I'm not religious, but I'm very spiritual, and I believe that witchcraft could be real, and I don't try to make real. I would never use a real spell, in my movies, and so I, just because it's just dangerous to me, like it's, it is what it is. So,
well,
yeah.
So it's like I just for The Witch, for me, it's like it looks good. I've heard great things about the film itself, but I was like, well, I tried twice and it's just not meant to be. So I just maybe someday it'll happen, but I'm not actively seeking it out now.
No.
But I just found it kind of funny at the end of the film because I know that part of the part of the poster and everything for the witches about the goat and stuff like that. I'm sure they do something to it in there. I'm sure the people that are listening to this probably are all like knowing exactly what happens in it because they've probably all seen it. But that's the reason I that. But back with this one, I mean, this I think could have been so much more, and that's kind of the disappointment. But it's like when I didn't have any build up going into it, obviously, because I didn't even know about it until you mentioned it.
Exactly. I mean, yeah. So you never heard of it. I think I had heard of it, or seen like the poster for it or whatever. Because what drew me in was the game, the title, because I used to play that game, so I knew that. Once I saw it, I was like, okay, is this about the game? And you know what? I would have loved if that were like about a bunch of friends who were of teenagers or something who, or older, like in their 20s, and they were trying to play that game again, right? Play Ghost in the Graveyard with their friends. They go to the graveyard to do it because they think it would be fun, sneak into a graveyard, do it, and then there's like real ghosts in the graveyard, So they're like, Ghost in the Graveyard. That's literally what I thought the movie was going to be about.
And that's got potential. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I mean, you have to have obviously more to keep it holding for a full feature, but I mean, even like in an anthology or something like that. I mean, it could be done. I mean, that sounds like, I mean, that actually could be a good idea. And I mean,
nobody steal it. I'm going to do it someday.
And I understand them trying. I mean, so they took that novel, that idea, and he had something whole bigger realm that he wanted to deal with. And
yeah, well, I mean, yeah, but see, once again, should have been called something else. I mean, I wouldn't have called like Mount Moriah. That's actually kind of I don't like I don't, I don't like that as like a title, like it's cool. It's a cool name for a town, but, I would, or Mount Moriah, whatever, what I mean? Like, they would have to have a really cool title that has to do with, the movie, and maybe that wasn't their choice. Sometimes a film gets the title changed because of whatever reasons. Let me see if they have a different title.
That's what I was going to start scrolling and looking around, see if there was another title for it. But
nope, the original title was Ghost in the Graveyard. It's always called Ghost in the Graveyard. Dang. So it should have been called something else, because that would have been fucking cool. Like, because the whole idea is it's gotta, what in the world? Okay. So apparently the ghost, Martha, was named after two Allman Brothers songs in memory of Elizabeth Reed and Little Martha. Her grave reads in memory of Little Martha. Interesting. I don't remember the thing. Let's see.
Is that the name of the song, in memory of Little Martha?
Well, that's the name of a Allman Brothers song, apparently.
I guess that has an interesting ring to it, but I don't know for it. I mean, they just needed a different title than
well, yeah. No, they needed. Oh, they definitely wouldn't have used that. I wouldn't have used that. I would have used, yeah. So it was a fictional town. Mount Moriah is a fictional town. The director cameos as a strange customer, Stanley Bricker, who visits the hardware store gathering dubious supplies. Later, he is seen on a wanted poster in the police station. Stanley is named after the legendary director Stanley Kubrick. So yeah, I remember that scene. He's like buying all these, like, he has like that was actually kind of a funny scene, because like Jake Busey sees his his shovel and he's like, that's a good digger. like, I'm like, what the fuck? That was sort of a funny scene, but because he's asking for all these things, that's obviously he's burying a body. That was the joke, so I got it, and I'm like, okay, he's kind of a weird character. Who is this guy? now I know he's the director, so I'm like, all right, cool.
This is his first film that he's directed, or I mean,
I think so. I think this is might be his first and last. Not to be mean, but like so far, like he hasn't really. Yeah, this is his only directing credit right now. But he's produced. Well, he's directed Ghost in the Graveyard, or produced Ghost in the Graveyard, and then he's producing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 movies that are in development, and then he's been like a production manager and assistant director, second assistant director on The Brawler. So that's pretty cool. I've heard of that.
I've heard of that
Um,
film too.
yeah, and then he's written this and 3 other movies. Hopefully he learns from after this movie to kind of you need to change, you need to work on, fixing your stories so that it makes sense, like
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the person who did the score and who also did cinematography. I mean, those people. I mean, when you say first and last, I don't think it'll be the first and last for them too.
Oh, definitely. Well, I don't think it will be last. I'm saying it's the last now,
Oh,
Like I'm hoping this dude directs more shit, you know. Like I really do. Like I think he has he has potential because he's made a movie. You know what I mean?
yeah,
He has made a movie that didn't bore me. And
yeah.
that's a big thing too. Being an indie film cafe, you've seen a lot of movies that probably bored you, or whatever, drove you nuts.
That's the ultimate sin is boredom in a film.
Yeah.
You're
And
bored.
this,
But with what he was biting off, trying to bit off more he could chew here, maybe this idea would have been something more in the lines of like a short series or something like that, not just one film, but maybe like a little 6 episode miniseries of then or something like that. Because there's a lot of stuff that I mean, if you really wanted to go down the avenue of school and then stuff at home, and then the stuff at the graveyard at the beginning, and then the stuff at the end, how it brings it all together. I mean, it could have been fleshed out into something much larger. Budgetary constraint. If it was just, if that's what the actual script had, then if that's the case, then but I mean, somewhere along the way, it got a little derailed.
mm, it did. So it's one of those movies that I think, like you're right, it bit off more than it could chew, and that I think kind of sad, but you know what
Yeah,
I mean.
but it's not boring, and it's got potential. And on that note, it's like it's interesting to look at. And it's interesting to watch. It's just you'll probably get a bit frustrated at the end because some stuff's not answered, and some of the stuff it's like, well, why is this? Why is this? What, huh? Stuff like that,
Right.
and then frustration. But there is some good things about this. Definitely recommendable.
Definitely. Um, yeah, I would say that if you're in the mood for something, I don't know, like it's not scary, or anything. But you're in the mood for something that's sort of it's not boring, like I said. So it's sort of entertaining. But if you can just look at past like the plot holes and the issues and the whatever, then I'd say watch it. But
And I like it. It takes place in the fall, winter time too, so it's a good Halloween type of thing. It fits that time period pretty well too. So there is
I
that.
know I was getting chills sometimes watching it because I love movies set in like the fall, winter time, time period because especially ones that are not filmed in like LA, where it's like always warm and shit all the time. You know what I mean? You have to fake everything there. If you film in like Virginia in the winter, you're gonna get snow or you're gonna get, you're gonna get dead trees and other shit, which is pretty cool. They look good. The original Halloween, they had to actually put down like fake leaves, because they were shooting in LA, or whatever. So, I mean, to me, it was pretty cool, to see that. And I want to see this guy. Let me say his name again. God, Charlie Comparetto. I mean, to get Jake Busey in your first film, to get fucking the kid from Free Willy and the other kid from Goodfellas, and get these guys in your movie to play pretty good parts, pretty damn awesome.
Yeah, what he may need on his next project is to have a strong producing team around him, and it's like it's a dangerous line because it's like you don't want to have a team that's gonna completely squash the director's vision, but he might need some guidance to
He
just
might
keep.
need someone squashing his vision so that he can get it right.
Yeah,
You know, Paul
shape.
does that shit with me all the time. I'll send him a script and he'll be like, this is terrible. You need, I won't be a part of this, or whatever and shit. And it sucks, but it's what you need because then you can rewrite it and fix it and hopefully make it make sense. That's what you need to do. You have to make shit make sense. If people look at it and they go, I don't understand. And you and the director should know, you know what I mean? Like director should know once he starts watching it. Okay, this doesn't make any sense. Like, oh, I forgot to add this scene or something, And once you start, because if you think it makes sense, but nobody else does, there's a problem, like, you
Yeah,
know,
and maybe this is a script that he had that it was 85 pages that originally was 150 or something like that dealt with all of it, so it got dealt with in his head but it never materialized out, and that's what took it to its whatever it's got now rating on the IMDb or whatever, and instead of it being absolute brilliance, it's probably middle, probably in the 4 or 5 area, something like that.
yeah, it's in 4.4. Damn. Um, it's 4.4 on the IMDb rating. But I mean, it like I said, it isn't. It's sort of like a meh movie,
Yeah.
but it could have been so much greater than that. It had sort of a fantastic story world,
Yeah, definitely that upper New York area that shoots great for the fall, and
Well,
that
I'm
looks.
just saying also the story world isn't just the place it is, but like it's a whole like universe he kind of created with the witches and the demons and the Satanism stuff and all this stuff. If he could have done flashbacks, if he had more money, and I understand like people go, well, I didn't have enough money. Well, I'm sorry, then make it, like don't make it this epic, or whatever grand, because at the end of the day, you can't film the stuff that you can't film. You know what I mean? Like if you can't shoot a flashback scene that makes sense to make this stuff make sense, because like there's another scene that really bothered me was the scene where she went to go get the uh what is it the birth certificates and stuff. She wanted to find her birth certificate. She wanted to find out. So that lady was like, okay, I'll have it to you. And, give me a week and I'll have it to you, which made no sense because she didn't tell her exactly what she needed. Right. It just made like, I don't know what was going on. And then the chick picks up the phone and says, yes, it's happened or something, or whatever. This is, and she says her name, Eckhart or something, hangs up. And I'm like, what the fuck just happened? Like, and then I was expecting like later to find out what happened and nothing explained like that. It wasn't like, the father wasn't like, oh, I spoke to that chick, blah, blah, blah. Or, who was she talking to? Do you know?
No. All I know is that when she was laying there on the bed, and all of a sudden the little can just came out with the little hand, pushed the can out, and then she was like, and then it just goes back under. She looks under, nothing's there. I'm like, all right, well, there's some ghosts, I guess, there. And
Yeah. There's some ghosts. There was some unexplained shit. I mean, it was like too much, and I just got weird and not in a good way, just got like a little
yeah,
strange.
yeah, it went for so an hour, and it went like the almost the Kevin Williamson high school Twilight type of young adult type of thing, and then it just turned on its head that last like
It
30
became
minutes.
like angel and demons and you're the descendant of Mary. And I'm like, what?
I was like,
Like,
I was like, did another movie start or something?
I know that's what it felt like. It felt like two different movies, or maybe three. Like I don't know. It felt like way too much shit going on. Honestly, yeah, we can talk about this like forever, but it's
I,
not gonna.
yeah, because you have the Ghost in the Graveyard game at the beginning. Then you
Mhm.
have the high school young adult.
Nope, nope, nope. We have the ghost in the graveyard scene. Then we got the witch stuff because we got a
No,
witch like doing her spells or whatever in her thing, and I don't know, like, and then watching them, and shit. It was, the fuck. And then we got the school stuff, and we
mhm.
got the
Then
the Mary shit, and then we got all this other stuff that, like, it's just like demonic possession, I guess. I don't know. Did anybody get possessed? I don't know. They talked about it. It was
yeah,
just so confusing. Ugh.
it'd be interesting on the DVD if there is like a commentary or something on it, just to hear what if the director did a commentary to hear what he said, what his thinking was.
I
If
don't
there's
think
in
I
there.
have this on DVD somewhere. Maybe it was a Dollar Tree movie, or it was like something I bought for like $10 or something because I like the title Ghost in the Graveyard. Maybe I never did. I don't know. If not, I'm gonna look around, and if I find it, I'll check. But if not, I might buy it on Amazon or something. Look, I will support this movie. But I'm gonna say this straight up right here. If I watch Ghost in the Graveyard 2, or whatever they end up calling a sequel if they ever make one, and it doesn't explain anything else, and it just kind of still confuses me, and the guy hasn't learned his lesson after I've done this review, you know, um, I don't know what to say, man. You know, some people don't like criticism, so they think they know what they're doing. I would
Yeah,
hope this director listens to people say that doesn't actually make any sense. Like, why did this is completely different movie. This is different tone shift. Why'd you do this?
and that's why I'd like to hear on this, because I mean it'd be interesting if he did a commentary on it and he talked it through like it was everything made such coherent sense for him, and try to rationalize where that's at. But
Maybe
yeah,
I can become friends with him on Facebook. Oh, I already added him, but he's not. He hasn't added me back yet. Maybe I can interview him and find out his full story on that, because that would actually be interesting.
there might be something that's just a miss on this, that we're maybe we're there's something else. But I mean, it'd be interesting to hear a different take on it, because I mean, my take, your take. I mean, nobody's takes the end all be all, and it's just it'd be interesting to hear how how he felt about putting it all together and stuff like that. And
Right.
nowadays that type of information is that usually available as a bonus thing and stuff like that. So,
Well, it's kind of cool. Like, you can find behind the scenes, you can find, commentary and all these cool shit. So these days, and it's kind of neat.
yep. So that is
Well,
Ghost Guard, and I learned that there's a young child's game of a flip version of hide and seek too. I did not.
exactly. Yeah, when you were watching, you were like, "This reminds me of hide and seek," and yeah,
Oh,
it
that's what
was.
I was like, that it was actually a legitimate. I mean, it's actually a legitimate game. That's kind of
And you
that's
had to play it at night. You had to
oh,
play it at night. Like when this, you couldn't play it during the day because everybody could always see the
mhm.
people easier, so you always had to play like when the sun went down at like 8 p.m. One of my childhood friends and he just came back to visit. I might bring that up with him, like, remember when we used to play Ghost in the Graveyard? And they made a fucking movie out of that, sort of, kind of,
For the first 10 minutes,
for the
if
first
that.
10 minutes, and then later it has a ghost in it, but then it
And there
has
is
witches, then it
back,
has what?
and they're back at the graveyard.
The back of the graveyard, a kid rides his bike and then gets attacked by the ghost.
Yeah, it
You
gets
know,
pummeled.
I know that ghost was nasty. Like, why was that ghost going after that kid?
I think that kid got bullied into doing it too. There's some bullying going on in this movie.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
Some bad bullying.
yeah.
You know,
The
but
bully should have got it, not the one that got bullied.
exactly.
But anyway,
Oh, there was a lot of shit going on in this movie, but you know what? I'm glad I watched it. I actually did enjoy it. It had
mm,
moments that I really liked. I fucking love Jake Busey. I'll watch anything with him. So I was happy that he was in this. Now I need to rewatch it again someday just so I can see Jason James Richter, you know. But it would have been funny if they made a joke about Free Willy to him, in the movie, you know. Like, hey,
I,
did you Free Willy yet?
I
And the funniest thing is maybe like Willie was a guy in the cop station or something, that he was supposed to let go. It's like, oh no, Willie's still in there. Like that would have been funny. But see, I always love that, like those little in jokes. But some people don't find that funny, like them, like the actors don't find themselves funny. Like I guarantee you, if I went up to Miko Hughes at the convention that I was just at and said, "Girls have a vagina, and boys have a penis," he would have looked at me and go, "Get the fuck out of my face!" Like I don't want to hear this shit.
he might be that way about Willie. Richter might be that way too, because I mean,
That's what
it's
I'm saying. I'm saying he might not have found that
yeah. No,
funny.
the guy having Goodfellas and stuff like that on his resume. I mean, that's like some like esteemed, like critically acclaimed stuff there.
Exactly. That's like, I mean, he got to work with fucking Martin Scorsese, and now he's doing Ghost in the Graveyard. I mean, like I said, it's like it's really cool that they had some big names in this movie and they all did a great job. You know, like I'm not joking on them. Just like I'm just saying, it's like it's funny how things kind of change or whatever. And his last name was D'Onofrio, and apparently I was like, oh, is he related to Vincent D'Onofrio? And no, he is not. Apparently, it says he was on his trivia. It says he was not related, even though a lot of people still think he is. You know.
Well, it's good that some character actors like or smaller actors and stuff, like child actors, stuff like that, can do something, and it's the work that they did here is not like you laugh at and stuff like that, because there are sometimes a lot you see those type of things. It's like, oh, they're just playing a joke upon themselves or something like that, and that's not the case in this one. So that's good on all them.
Yeah, I mean, we just watched Debbie Gibson.
It's not the problem with that movie.
That was not the problem. She was good. She was really good. Did a great job. But we watched her Mega Shark versus Giant Octopus. And you know what? She did a fantastic job. And she's a good actress, which I think she should do more acting. Just go away from the asylum. Just leave them. Go somewhere else. Go to somebody who can handle your stuff a little bit
Maybe
more.
Graveyard too.
Yeah, she could play Jake Busey's new wife, who has that child, because we have no idea where that fucking child came from. Lily. There was Lily and Billy.
And was did his wife die? I can't remember if they mentioned that in the story or something like that.
I don't remember either.
Yeah. Well, it's but
I
yeah.
remember she was no longer there. So
Yeah, exactly.
I don't remember how she died or what happened with that, but ugh.
Yeah. So, well,
Ghost in the Graveyard is choking me up.
so this fits into the 31 days of horror.
31 days of indie horror, baby.
There you go.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Joe.
All
Damn,
right.
I don't know. This ghost is down my throat. Join us tomorrow. Well, join me tomorrow for another episode of 31 Days of Indie Horror. Have a good one, guys. Bye.